Hi, and welcome to this episode of Beer to Whiskey. I'm Russ Heaps, and in my ongoing mission to spread the gospel of good taste, today I find myself in Lakeside, Montana. I'm at the Tamarack Brewing Company, and we're here. We're going to try some of their beers and talk about their beers and talk about their history. And with me to my immediate left is Wrangler Rick Fowler, a buddy of mine for close to 50 years. Sitting next to him, we have the master brewer here at Tamarack, Kyle Carlson. And across from me, we've got one of the owners, Josh Townsley. So guys, thanks for inviting us. It's good to be here, and I know I'm going to like this beer. I guess, Josh, give me some background on the brewery. How did this brewery get started?
My wife's family has had a place up here on Flathead Lake for close to 40 years now. She's actually a native Calgarian, but this was home to her. They spent every summer. We met in Arizona, and Arizona's not a place you want to be in the summer. So this was our retreat. We fell in love with it. We had our children, decided we didn't want to raise them in a big city. We wanted to find some place that was more home, more community orientated. And so we decided to start Tamarack Brewing in Lakeside, Montana. I had a little history. When I got done with college, I fell into some guys starting a brewery in Tempe, Arizona. So I spent 10 years with them, learning, making mistakes, kind of learning how a brew pub is supposed to be run. They got a great education with them. So we decided to take it here and raise our family in northwest Montana. Most beautiful place in the world.
It is lovely. I'll say that. Kyle, what's your history? How'd you find your way here?
I'm originally from just north of Atlanta, Alpharetta, which is now pretty much part of Atlanta,
right,
with all the sprawl. But 2005, I decided to start hiking the Appalachian Trail, and met a couple girls from different parts of the U.S., and we all wanted to move out west. So we flipped a coin, and it was heads up. So we packed our stuff and headed out to Missoula. And then from Missoula, I somehow wandered up to Kalispell and was homebrewing very frequently at the time. Knew the head brewer at the time here very well, and I'd always give him my beer to get some input because I wanted to continue to grow and develop as a brewer. So he'd come back and give me feedback, and a couple years down the road, get a call one day that they need a brewer, and he thought of me, so dropped what I was doing, and the rest is kind of history. Been here ever since.
So, is there something that, since you're in charge of the brewing, is there something that you specialize in? Is there something that you feel is what you do really well?
I think we're definitely a hop-forward brewery. We like to experiment with a lot of different varieties and different uses of hops. But we don't try to be like a one-trick pony. We appreciate all beer styles, and we really try to branch out and experiment and just do whatever we can to make the best beer that we possibly are able to.
What do you have as year-round beers?
Year-round beers, we have Hat Trick Hop IPA, Wakeboard Wheat, Sip and Go Naked, which is a apricot wheat ale. We have a Lakeside Pale Ale, a Switchback Stout, Yard Sale Amber, Bare Bottom Blonde.
Pretty much rounds out our staples. They would pretty much carry 8 staples on a 14 tap system, and these guys do a great job of mixing in 6 seasonals constantly. Like you were saying, we do like our hops, our hop forwards. There's usually always some kind of seasonal IPA. Right now we're drinking seasonal Big Drift IPA. We've go from Gojas.
Yeah, we'll do Gozas, we'll do kettle sours, we'll do barrel-aged sours, We have our Old Stash Whiskey Barrel Porter on tap right now.
Which is
It's a heavy
pretty
hitter.
good. Yeah, that's pretty good beer.
And that's a February release. Generally, people, are always anticipating it. I know, living out here, they're waiting for Old Stash.
It is. It's a February 16th release, which is Old Stash is kind of a tribute to my father-in-law. He was definitely he's the one who put us all here basically with buying a place on Flathead in 1976. But he's also just a great guy, very instrumental in helping us get the brewery started. He's played professional hockey for 16 years.
Oh, wow.
So, and his mustache is kind of iconic in the hockey world. So, we made a tribute to him, released it on his birthday. Old Stash. It sits in whiskey barrels that we get in. We bring them in September, and then let them sit in there for six months. Some are still sitting the year after. We just kind of play with it. And we release that every February 16th on his birthday.
And it's an imperial porter, right?
Yes. Yes.
Now, this is such a great facility. Did you start in this building, or did you, build it right from the get-go?
We did. We started in this facility. We built this facility. Moving up here, breweries, we do like, our first thought was find a really cool building. Unfortunately, Lakeside is a relatively new community. It's an unincorporated community, so it doesn't really have a downtown or an old commerce center that we could go in. So what we did was we basically tried to build it to make it look like part of it was here, and then we had to add on to it to create what we've created. So we tried to create something that looked like it had some history to it. Turned out pretty well, we think.
Sure did.
And then we did a small renovation addition in 2015 to add some more seating, some more cooler space, some more brewery space. So just kind of a progression.
Well, and you've got a good thing going here too, because in the wintertime you've got the ski slope almost next door, and then the summer you get all the summer traffic from the lake.
The property itself was really what we wanted. We are on the way to Blacktail ski resort, which is just a 13-mile jaunt right up the road past us here. I think it's one of only 2 ski areas in North America where you actually drive to the summit and ski down. So we get that traffic in the winter, and then we have a beautiful year-round creek right here on the north side of the property that our patio sits on. Those were the 2 big determining factors of where we wanted to build as well. We wanted that summer feature, winter feature, and it's turned out well. There's no better place in the summer than to sit and listen to the creek and watch it and have a
Sure.
beer.
As a east of the Mississippi dweller, what is the significance of Tamarack? Where does the name come from?
Well, nobody would let me name it Josh Townsley Brewing Co. No, we wanted, when we came here and the idea to start a brewery, we didn't want to be Lakeside Brewing, because that's just the significance to one thing. Tamarack's actually a tree that's found north of the Arctic Circle, but the western larch here is commonly referred to as a tamarack tree, and its significance is that it loses its needles in the winter. It changes from green to gold and then loses all its needles in the winter and then comes back. Okay. So it was just kind of seemed like a cool name, and that was the one that made the list and made the final cut. I can't even remember what the other ones were, to be honest with you.
Kyle, what was the beer that got you started in craft beers? What was it that grabbed your attention and made you think, okay, I'm going to check out this craft thing more?
Probably Natural Light.
Well, that might have drove you to
I think like
craft
so
beer.
many others, probably Sierra Nevada Pale Ale.
Okay.
You know, it was probably my first beer that was different and tasted different than domestic beer, I guess.
What was the first thing you brewed? Do you remember what that was?
I definitely homebrewing started out with the darker beers. I feel like it would be a little bit more forgiving.
Sure.
You know, because I really didn't know exactly what I was getting myself into. So started with like porters and stouts, and then kind of progressed from there, I guess.
I know there was a big can delivery here today. That excitement ran high, from what I understand. But so obviously you are selling beer outside of the brewery. What's your distribution?
We distribute about 2,500 barrels or so outside of the brew pubs, and it really only runs on the west side of the Continental Divide here. We go from Eureka to the north, which is 8 miles south of the Canadian border, down I-93 to Darby, which is down in the Bitterroot, and then we make our way east a little bit into Butte through our two distributors, Fun Beverage and Summit Beverage, and that's pretty much where we stay. Those are markets, they keep us busy enough.
But you have a second brew pub in Missoula, correct?
We also do have a second brew pub in Missoula. It's not a brewing facility. It is just a pub downtown Missoula, right on Caris Park in the Clark Fork River. We opened that in 2011.
So Kyle, is there a beer that you have not brewed that you were sort of dying to brew?
I can appreciate any style of beer. I kind of fall into the trap of brewing a specific style and then wanting to make it better. So I tend to focus on a specific beer until, you know, our team gets it to where we feel like it's the best beer that we can produce. So I don't think there's any specific style that I'm dying to brew. We do, you know, we have 6 seasonals on the board, so that allows us to experiment quite a bit, which
Right.
is nice.
What's your thought on sours? They seem to be kind of popular right now, kind of a vogue thing.
They are, yeah. I love sours. We have a decent barrel aging program. We're doing quite a bit of sours and kind of messing around with quite a few different bugs. We do make a Goza typically a couple times a year, nice and tart. And by no means do we do anything traditional. Like, we don't really follow stylistic guidelines. We're like to kind of do our own thing.
Right.
But yeah, kettle sours are fun, and yeah, I think sours are really starting to take off. I don't know if they'll ever be like the next IPA or anything, but you know, who knows?
And you guys have won some nice awards with your beers too, as I recall, with some of the banners and
Won Alpha King a couple years ago, which is awesome because that's just a hoppy beer competition with a lot of really cool breweries and brewers that I really respect. But we don't really focus too much on winning awards or medals or anything. We really just want to make the best beer we can, and hopefully if we really enjoy it, other people will. And if they don't, I guess we'll drink it all.
so.
Well, that's a dirty job. Josh, Rick and I and some others were in on Friday or Saturday, I guess, and had dinner. And the food here was pretty good. What do you guys do in terms of when you plan menus or when you brew beers? Do you brew beers sort of to fit some of the food that you're serving, or do you guys arrange your menu around some of the beers that you offer?
We arrange the menu more around the beer that we're brewing. We don't let anybody fall into a creative trap of having to play off one another. You know, there's so many different palettes of beer, there's so many different palettes of food. The beer will naturally go with any kind of food. You can pair it up. The brew pub, the pub side, the food element is a big part of who we are. making us a family-friendly destination where you can come, bring your family, bring your kids, enjoy a beer or two, have a good dinner or lunch, and just enjoy. Conversate with your family, friends, sit at the bar after work with, the whole range of demographic of people. I mean, that's the great thing about a brew pub. That's what I kind of fell in love with it in Arizona, watching the bar itself. You see a PhD sitting next to an MD, next to a truck driver, next to a drywaller, and they're all having the conversation over a beer, and that, some food. That's a beautiful thing. The community centers, that's why you see the success, I think, of a brew pub.
Well, the night we were in here, you guys were slammed, so obviously something's working. You guys are doing something right. It was really busy.
Well, we like to think so.
If you were king of beer for a day, what would be your next thing to do here? Do you have the next step?
If I was king for a day?
Yeah.
Are you sure you want to ask that question?
I guess everybody dreams of being, a little bigger. Another expansion or a big production facility would be a wonderful thing to do. You want to get what you have passion for the beer, for the food. You want as many people to fall in love with the same thing you love. It would be nice to be able to do that. But that's a big step. There's craft brewing right now is kind of in that transition. I saw it, I lived through it when I first started in '96. There was a lot of breweries that were starting, and then by early 2000s, some of those breweries were closing. And then there was kind of a decent mix of people starting, and then there was the boom of 2012-ish, where now we've got a bunch of breweries starting in, and they keep opening. And that goal of reaching further and further away from your epicenter is a little more of a risk, a giant risk at this point. King for a day, wish that we could make enough money to, solve all the world's problems, I guess. But, at least we can help make our community a little better.
Yeah, right. Well, we've talked about a couple of the other beers you make. What are we sipping here?
This is our Big Drift White IPA. So it's about 7.2%, maybe 50 IBUs or so. And it's basically a wheat IPA. And then we like to use some coriander, orange peel, and some other little spices.
Yeah, I'm getting a little citrus in it. So yeah. So those are the primary things we should be tasting.
Yeah, but I don't like to have one ingredient be a complete standout, so we like to try to find a nice balance that meld well together.
Right.
So get a little bit of that coriander and some of that citrus from the orange peel. And we do also use some candied ginger in it, so it might give it just a little bit of a kind of a spicy end note at the very end.
Yep.
It's not overpowering. It's really got a nice finish to it. So
yeah, it's good.
Very, very drinkable.
And this is an annual. This is something you do year round. Yes.
It's kind of like a super seasonal.
Okay. I knew I was going to be wrong. I knew what I said I was going to be wrong.
Yeah, we like to keep it on as much as we can.
Yeah.
A lot of the locals like to yell at me when it's not on, and I like to keep them happy, so we try to keep it on.
Yeah, right.
Quite a bit. So definitely throughout the winter into spring, and then if we have the tank space in summer, we'll brew up some batches of it as well.
What's your production a year, Josh? What are you putting out barrel-wise?
We're just over 4,000.
Yeah.
Just around 4,000.
4,500.
Okay. All right. Well, you've got a lot of beers on tap for that kind of production.
We do, and we're on a 10-barrel system. we have some 30-barrel fermenters, and then these small guys are our 10s.
Right.
And when I started, I think maybe we had 2 30-barrel fermenters, 1 30-barrel bright, and then the rest were 10s. So we've kind of swapped that. We have more 30s and just 4 10-barrel fermenters right now.
Right. Well, we're sitting in the brew pub, and the lunch crowd's starting to roll in. So we should probably wrap this up and let everybody get back to work and get out of everybody's way. But guys, I really appreciate the invite. It's been fun. We've learned a little about the brewery. We've had some good beer. And with that, cheers.
Cheers. We appreciate you guys coming. Thank you.
Thank you.
Until next time.